effort of inside maneuvering, outside mobilization, families telling their stories. Mr. Ruiz having 3 degrees, graduate degrees in terms of public health and being a doctor in the rest, maybe one is not under that much. And to have him be an intellectual resource on this. Mr. Takano really has this legislation. He is not in town today. He'll be back tomorrow. But I want to mention his name because, again, he has, as chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee, has done so much to take this bill to where it is. It was a heavy lift, I have to say, because it was such a major problem, and the solution would have to be major and costly, and not to overpromise. So you really struck the right balance, Mr. Ruiz. We're fortunate indeed that we had the benefit of your experience and your knowledge on all of this. And if you listen to the stories of the families, it breaks your heart. We have them here again and again. But I just say, apart from this, I'm so glad that Congresswoman Underwood is here because she's going to have a tremendous victory on Friday when we pass the Inflation Reduction Act. It'll have a major piece in there that's so important, kitchen table issue for America's families, and that is the extension for 3 years of the subsidies to lower the cost. And that was for legislation in the rescue package, and now it has to be extended. So she was relentless in pursuing that, and we're so glad it made the cut in that bill. And at the same time, having historic legislation to enable the Secretary to negotiate for lower drug prices, are very, very significant as we save the environment, produce jobs. And back to our purpose here. This is when we sign this, we'll be sending it over on its way to the White House for the President to sign. It'll make a tremendous difference in the lives of our men and women in uniform and their families. It's named now, you may have recalled that the President was there when his mom came to the swearing in. Private First Class Heath Robinson, a veteran stolen away by cancerous toxins. Again, this bill will recognize toxic exposure at the cost of war. When you go to war, this is really part of the combat. It could affect up to 3.5 million American heroes. And this one is heartbreaking because it not only applies to the person in uniform, but it applies to their families. It addresses the harmful effects of the war at Camp Lejeune. And that not just for the person in uniform, but their families, and the consequences are terrible. It's a bipartisan bill, and we're very pleased with that, and we're striving all along to continue to make it so. And I'm going to just say, as I mentioned Mark Takano, for years, we have a regular meeting with the veteran service organizations, and for years they've been talking about this. Mr. Reese and Mr. Takano captured this. There was some support for it in the Senate too, so now it would be bipartisan. But there are groups called the Burn Pits 360, and they're outside mobilization, and you've probably seen John Stewart and John Field in their, shall we say, very direct language when the Senate didn't pass it. I just want to mention one of my constituents. I sent him a video today. His name is Colonel Michael Seltzer. He's a loving father, a devoted husband, a daring fighter pilot who fought valiantly in the skies over Iraq and Afghanistan. And his commanding officer said he was the best pilot he had ever seen. During his service, Colonel Seltzer was exposed to toxins, from burn pits. This week he's fighting for his life, being treated for stage 4 cancer. Again, we're grateful for his courage, character, for hopefully some remedy that will come along, but just one of so many who were affected by the burn pits. Biggest new football fields, all kinds of junk thrown in there. How could they do this? There are many how could we put them in harm's way in such a job? So now I'm going to sign this, and again, I sign lots of bills all the time, but this one really hits home for so many American families. With their courage, their patriotism, they sacrifice so much for our country. And as we say in the military, on the battlefield, we leave no soldier behind. And when they come home, we leave no veteran behind. But this is something so mysterious. I'm glad that we also have Elizabeth Joel's initiatives in here for the hidden heroes, the caregivers who do so much for our heroes when they come home. So it's a pretty exciting day. We'll go tomorrow to the White House where the President will sign the bill, and it will be cause for celebration. As sad as we are, that is needed, but as grateful as we are for the services that men and women have rendered the sacrifice of their families. And again, grateful to the President for his leadership to make sure that this happens. I'm going to sit down and say that. Mr. Reese, would you like to say something about this as we put this up?
I'm just trying to hold back the tears because I am so happy in celebration, thinking of all the veterans throughout the years who have died as delayed casualties of war from a self-inflicted Department of Defense wound. The veterans who are 100% oxygen dependent, no longer able to provide for their families, falling into deep depressions, and some even committing suicide because of that depression. And especially, I'm thinking of a constituent of mine, Jennifer Kettner, who made me aware of this in 2017 when she died of pancreatic cancer due to burn pits, and asked me to help lead this fight to help this issue. And so the fact that we have 23 items that are presumptive benefits due to their exposure to burn pits, and that's just 23 items. One of them, for example, cancers of the reproductive organs, so that's more than 23 illnesses that are included. It's the most expansive access to care in our generations. 3.5 million veterans will have their pain and suffering reduced because now they'll have access to health care, and their widows and their families will be taken care of because now they have access to benefits. And so thank you, Speaker Pelosi, for your leadership. I thank Chairman Takano. I thank all of the advocates, the Burn Pits 360s, and all the VSOs who made this a reality for veterans. This is one of the most significant pieces of legislation for our veterans. And we also thank the Biden administration, who had a pivotal role in early on in classifying rhinitis, sinusitis, and asthma as presumptive benefits for those illnesses due to burn pits, which was a game changer for this motion. So thank you so much. And
well, Speaker Pelosi, Councilwoman Lauren Underwood of Illinois, a healthcare professional herself.
Thank you so much for inviting me to join you today. It's been a real honor to serve on the Veterans Affairs Committee with Dr. Ruiz and Chairman Takano. You know, we know that so many of the veteran service organizations have made this a priority, but it's also been a bipartisan priority for our committee during our term in Congress, and I know that this will save lives. You know, we take for granted that veterans have access to health care, but there's many who don't. And there's many who have been struggling to be able to get the care that they need. And this legislation will go so far in offering comfort and hope to those families during their time of suffering.
Thank you for your service, both you and the Veterans Affairs Committee, and for joining us here today. This means a lot to me because going back before I was in Congress, I was involved in some activism on Agent Orange. It took so long. It took so long for justice to be done in that regard. We even have a little piece of it in this bill still as we learn more things. But I remember sitting in with veterans who were, because of Agent Orange, who were on hunger strikes And as if that was going to make a difference. They should have not had to do that, but again, determined that we would get something done to help them. And that happened a few years ago, and now we have this to go even further. So again, it is emotional for all of us. And I again thank Takano for his leadership, Senator Tester in the Senate, and of course the President of the United States. It's unfortunate that the Senate had to pull a stunt and not pass the bill on schedule, defeating the bill. Thanks to the families who had all-night vigils to make sure the public was aware of what was happening. Again, outside mobilization is what it takes to get the job done. So for our veterans, we thank them, we love them, we pray for them, and we want to do the best for them. Onward to the President.